Hello and welcome to the Answer Yes podcast. Again, thank you for tuning in. All your notes recently, our shows are really taking off. I've enjoyed watching the numbers climb and getting some wonderful feedback. We've had some great guests. The PR agencies that have been reaching out to me have really been delivering. Today, I've got Howie Zales on the phone. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Calling in from New York. You got camera background in the sports industry. I know it's going to be an
Yeah.
exciting discussion.
Yes, absolutely. I have 25 years of experience shooting sports and entertainment events for networks like NBC Sports, the World Wrestling Entertainment.
Wow, couple great great opportunities. I can only imagine what it's like to be in the World Wrestling forums, getting some of that photography, from some of that
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, it was a blast. I spent over 20 years shooting backstage. Did over 20 WrestleManias. I've seen the world many times over, touring the world. Been to every state in the country with WWE and NBC.
I could just see those massive personalities going, "Hey, Howie, get me with the camera." Any fun back end stories on some of those wrestling days you want to share real quick?
Yeah. There's tons of them. It was one big family, the crew, and the wrestlers. I actually got hurt on one of the tours. We were in Germany, and I had to leave the tour and get rushed to the hospital because I had what was a double ear infection, but at the time we didn't know what it was.
Uh huh.
And all the wrestlers that day like made a giant card, and like the biggest star of the show, Triple H, came to the hospital to see me and brought it on behalf of everyone. And it was just a big, huge family.
Wow, that's fun. Any of the professional wrestlers that I met, Hulk Hogan, to name one of
Yeah,
them, just a super genuine, nice person, literally like a big teddy bear.
yeah,
And I had the pleasure of interviewing his wife on a radio show and reading her book, and you can just tell, like, obviously they were separated and they had their own battles, but you could just tell these are great people in an industry where they really care about one another.
yeah. And The Rock, John Cena, all awesome people.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by film and sports. I had the opportunity to visit the PGA Tour media
Okay.
office. And, they're walking through the building and their capabilities. And they said, yeah, we can give you anything that's ever been filmed in golf. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, in 1968, when Arnold Palmer was playing the Masters at such and such golf course on the ninth green, we can pull that up right now. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of content. do,
Yes.
do you think about back how much content you've created or generated in your career?
Yeah. Uh, Hours and hours and hours. I've done, 1,000 football games, Olympics, Kentucky Derbies, just tons of all the, and that's just like the big events, right? I've done, everyday baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, boxing, but
Hmm.
ton of events.
Yeah,
I have a big bin full of all of my media credentials from every show I've done.
yeah. I bet that's fun to look through once in a while and remember some of the big games or big events that you were a part of.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, does that come with hazard pay? Because every time I watch a football game, I'm looking at the guys on the sidelines, just thinking, man, they're going to get hit, and lo and behold, somebody's getting knocked over.
It should, because I've had three concussions. Good story. First one happened in baseball. I was doing the camera on the third base side of the field. It was at Shea Stadium where the Mets used to play before City Field was built,
Hmm.
for any non-New Yorkers. And I was shooting at low third. So there was a runner on second. So my job responsibility with a runner on second and a right-handed batter up was to shoot the runner on second.
Hmm.
And you're always taught to watch the pitch. So I was like this, watching the pitch, shooting the runner on second. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital.
Wow.
I got hit in the head right here because that's where the bump is, with a line drive from Joe McCune on the Mets. It was an off-speed pitch, so he was kind of like out in front of it,
Yeah.
and it hit my head right there. And the funny part of the story is, obviously I was okay after a few hours, but the funny part of the story is when I fell 7 feet into the Colorado Rockies dugout,
Uh-huh.
and my camera jerked from the second base, the runner on second, to the pitcher's mound. And because they were attending to me in the Colorado Rockies dugout, they stopped playing. The pitcher kept walking around the pitcher's mound. They took my camera 3 times, and I wasn't even standing there. On the fourth time, because they were still working on me, the pitcher walked off the mound onto the grass. They take my camera, and my camera just sits there. I'm
Uh-huh.
getting yelled and screamed at. Camera 5, pan, pan, pan. And like I'm half dead on the ground.
How do the players feel about cameramen? Are they happy that they're there? You're there? Do they know it's part of the deal? Or is there like some tension? Like, dude, you're always in the way.
Two good stories. I was doing low first at Yankee Stadium, and this is when Paul O'Neill was playing, so it's a while ago. We have 90 seconds in between half innings for
Mm-hmm.
commercial breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And right at the base of the dugout where you walk to the clubhouse is a bathroom. Paul O'Neill was about to go in there. I'm like, hey, Paul, I got 90 seconds to use the bathroom. Can I jump in there in front of him? He's like, yeah. Go ahead. Whatever you take all the time you need.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
He gets it.
Yeah, he got it. And then there was who was it that was there's been some super not nice quarterbacks. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Don't they realize that you're the ones that are making them the superheroes on TV
Some people just don't get it.
at all? I got to
Yep.
say, I attended the Super Bowl live when it was in Detroit. It's my first Super Bowl.
Okay.
And I was a little disenamored with the whole deal because, you watch it on TV and you got fanfare and then those awesome commercials come on and you're like, yeah, this is awesome. When you're there in person during those commercial breaks, it seems like eternity. And you're watching the players walk around and BS. And it's like, how is this even a game right now because of the commercial
And
breaks?
and when for us, right, all the lead up to it is big and everything, but as soon as the ball's kicked off, it's just another football game
Yeah.
with more cameras.
Yeah, with more cameras, more angles, right?
Yeah.
Well, and my thought was how hard it must be to play in that environment because you're stop and start, and the stops could be a long time. I know as an athlete, especially halftime, right? You got your adrenaline going, you're pumped, you know what the play is, and then all of a sudden you got a long commercial break. And it's like you're out of the zone for however long, and then you got to get back into it. It's got to be super challenging.
Right.
Yeah. So you catch all this from a different angle. Tell me about your background. How did you get involved in this industry? Because you look around every day, and there's a different job for everyone. And clearly,
Yeah.
this has been a great career for you.
Yeah, no, I love what I do. And I've gotten to see the world with it, so that's even better. I in 11th grade, well, first of all, I wanted to play professional baseball when I was growing up, and I did everything possible to do that. I played a ton of baseball, but in 11th grade, I needed an elective, and one of the choices was a TV production class, and the description was trip to 30 Rock, which is NBC, to get a tour and to see a show being taped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how bad can that be, right?
Right?
And I ended up falling in love with television.
Mm.
And then I took it again the second semester, the following year, and then I only applied to colleges that had TV stations. I ended up at a great school that we were allowed to touch the equipment on day one, and I was involved in sports production from day one in college, and I loved it.
Wow. Now, this industry that you're in, are you an entrepreneur or do you work for somebody?
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I happen to own 3 television production businesses. And I never saw myself as an entrepreneur until very, very recently. And it was because my wife kind of twisted my arm. She goes, you're really an entrepreneur. And I'm like, better learn how to spell that word if I'm going to call myself an entrepreneur.
It's not an easy one.
but yeah, so I just kind of with COVID kind of retired from shooting because I have a bad back in 25 years, but of doing it. But we have three businesses. One, we staff sports and entertainment businesses
Mm-hmm.
with TV with the crew. And the other one, VES Veridity Entertainment Services, is we provide live stream and hybrid and event production for corporate meetings and events, talk shows, concerts, you name it, we live stream it.
Mm-hmm. You know, that was a little bit of a setup of a question because I have your bio and everything over here, so I
Oh,
cheated a
okay.
little bit. But, you know, I think oftentimes we find ourselves in an industry doing the job and going about our life, and we forget the opportunity to become an entrepreneur. And once you make that decision, the transition can be easy and satisfying all the same, but also rewarding to utilize all the talent that you gained throughout those years.
Yeah, it's I did wrestling 50 weeks a year for nearly 20 years.
Wow.
So although I was an entrepreneur and I could say no at any time, it was like a full-time job in the sense that I was always there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I always had the businesses on the side, or the one first business I talked about on the side. And when it became time to walk away from shooting, I was it was nerve-wracking, right? Without the constant fallback of shooting. But the ups and downs of entrepreneurialism is great, right? It's a roller coaster. Some days you get a big ticket contract. Other days you send out 50 estimates trying to get it. And you just got to ride the roller coaster. And the name of our company is Veridity Entertainment, and it's a cool story of how we came up with the name, and it kind of describes my personality. I went to a mastermind, and the discussion was that if you react, when something goes really, really good, and you react like in a high state, right? It's called being in the blue zone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go quickly to the red zone when something goes bad because you're angry or upset, you're in the red. But if you kind of stay even keeled, no matter what the situation, you're in the green. And that kind of describes my personality. So then my wife and I kind of looked up words that meant the state of being green or the state of green, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't want it to be anything to do with money. So and that's how we came up with the word veridity.
Well, besides dollar cost average doesn't sound very good for a company name. So, you know,
No.
seems to work. You know, it's interesting as an entrepreneur when you look at that zone, right?
Uh-huh.
And as you talked about those highs and lows, that's to be expected. But when you pull back and you look at the average of those highs and lows, you know, you can see where your business really lies and the benefits of being an entrepreneur. Because oftentimes we get wrapped up in those lows, like, oh, I'm failing this month. But if you take a step back and you go, wow, you know what? Actually, we're even a little bit ahead of last year. Just because I'm having a tough month doesn't mean it doesn't come back. You know.
Yeah, for me, I can't get involved in the day to day where we are with that because that'll drive me crazy. I gotta stay focused on. I try to stay focused on the three, maybe 2% of what I'm good at, and let my wife, who's the big brains, uh, deal with the other stuff.
Yeah, talk to me about stamina on your business. You know, I back in my corporate life, we had sponsored Michael Bublé, performing artist, singer, does the standards, and I went on tour with him for I don't know, maybe it was 6 weeks max. And that
Right.
that could be in a stretch. And of course, he was doing a 50-week tour. I don't even know how they do it. I was exhausted after those,
Yeah.
and all I was doing was hosting guests and watching a show. You know, he was actually the one performing. How do you operate at that level? You talk about filming wrestling for 50 weeks straight. I mean,
Yeah.
that is on the go.
Well, and I wasn't only doing wrestling, right? So I, during football season, I'd leave typically on Thursday. I'd go to Notre Dame. I'd shoot Notre Dame home games for NBC uh, Friday, Saturday. Once in a while,